I'm tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So, it is time for my monthly reading wrap-up. This is my wrap-up for March. I read a total of 14 books this month, and you know what? I'm really, really proud of myself. So because I read 14 books, I'm going to try to keep this somewhat brief per book. I am sorry if it runs long, but you can always skip to the book you're interested in hearing about, because I'll include chapters for this one. First off, I started the month with Four Ruined Realms. I did end up having to audiobook this book because it was just a struggle for me. You know, book one was just like bam, 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 bam. And I think my issue with this one is it starts slow. Like your group has, you know, been split up and we're going through a lot of inner monologue, and inner turmoil and tension. And I don't mind that. And I think the saving grace for it is the fact that we're getting more invested in the character dynamics and we're getting a little bit more backstory per character, and we're delving deeper into, you know, their relationships with one another. So in that regard, I think it was really well done. And that last like half of the book was just like, oh my god. So for the first half, it was like, okay, come on, let's move on with the story. And the last half of it was just nonstop. And then you have that ending, and then you have the death, because yes, one of them dies. And this is me. I was like, I didn't see that coming. I did not see that coming. My jaw was hanging up. I was like, what? And I'm like, okay, you have redeemed yourself, book. Redemption. After that, I read Scorced Roses. I liked it. Especially if you liked the characters Vale and Lilith that are introduced in The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King. I think this book gives a little bit more depth into Vale as a character and his relationship with humans and his relationship with turned vampires. And you understand him a little bit more and why he was more reticent to come back to Nyaxia and fight in this war. And as for Lilith, you're getting a lot from her backstory as well. Who was this human? Why did he choose to marry this human and turn this human? So you're getting a whole lot of that in a really, really short amount of time. And I think it's also good that we're seeing more of the White Pantheon. You know, the good guys. They're supposed to be the good gods. They're very much like Greek mythology. These gods, they just like to, you know, Greek mythology. Gods just kind of sometimes like to torment humans, just to torment humans, or just so that they can be odd some more. So I liked that aspect of the story, how we're getting to see more of the White Pantheon and how they interact with humans, you know? So I really did enjoy that aspect of the storytelling as well. After that, I read The Witch Hunt. I will say it's been a while since I read The Witch Haven. However, I think Smith does a really good job of throwing bits of information throughout the story that remind you of the important events of the previous book without you feeling lost or without feeling like info dumping. You know, it keeps a nice steady pacing. I will say there were times, but thankfully they are few and far between, like very few. Probably just 2 or 3 times when the pacing was just a little too slow for me. However, we're in France now, you know? We're meeting foreign witches, and you're getting to see the ramifications of what our main character did with Finn. And yes, that means she has to bring Finn back into her life. And if you remember the first book, he's kind of a bastard. Not kind of, he is a bastard. So it's really interesting to see how the story developed. Because when you read the first book, you kind of think like, oh, well, it's kind of over. Like, it has a nice solid conclusion. It didn't really need a sequel. So the fact that it got a sequel, you know, she's delving into it. She's really bringing the story full circle. She's developing her characters, which I think is really, really well done, honestly. After that, I read Cage of Dreams, and oh my god, I love this book so much. It's a sequel to City of Snipers by Rebecca Schaefer. Such a good book. Ness, and yes, she is named after the Loch Ness Monster, for a girl who was terrified. In the first book, she was terrified of everything, to the point where she would describe herself scuttling away from things that scared her, or setting places on fire, or flooding places. Like, she is terrified of everything, and you can't really blame her. I mean, when she was a kid, her sister turned into a nightmare, and that just so happened to be a spider, and killed her father, and chewed him up, and then went out and attacked people in the city. But there was a whole reason behind it, she discovers. It wasn't just her sister forgetting to take her medicine. Her sister made a choice to protect her. And then there was a whole conspiracy. And it's great because you're seeing Ness really come into her own. She's still terrified of things. She still has to deal with a lot of past trauma. But the point is, she has a really good support system. And she's making the effort to kind of recognize her trauma and move beyond it. She's like, you know what? I'm scared, but I'm going to be brave to protect the people I love. And her inside, yes! Sorry. I was shipping them from the first book, and I love them in this book. They are great together. You see so much growth and development in their relationship, and so much growth and development in her and how she views him, because remember in the first book she was terrified of him. And I'm so excited with how their relationship grows. You know, how they're friends and how they take care of each other and watch out for each other. And I think it's just so well done. Honestly, I loved it. I loved it so much. And the Nightmare Phantom. We get to see way more of him and his connection to someone that's in the book. I was like, what? This caught me off guard, I will say. I did not see that coming. Completely didn't even cross my mind. I read The Songbird and the Heart of Stone. After that, I love Misha, and Misha needs to be protected at all costs. And I stand by that statement wholeheartedly. Okay? I stand by that statement wholeheartedly. I love Misha. She's... My God, she's been through it. Like, she has been through it. I really don't want to spoil anything for you, because you get so much more of her backstory and her time as a priestess to the sun god, and how it started when she was a child, and her relationship with her older sister, and how she came to be in Nyaxia in the first place, and why she was in Nyaxia in the first place. And you're getting so much story and so much more depth added to Misha, and why she's like kind of this smarky, like snarky, feel goody, takes no shit kind of character. And I love that about her and her relationship in this book. And, oh my God. You know what I also loved? I love how it reminded me a lot of Dante's Inferno, because she's trying to find the pieces of the god of death, with Asar, and they have to go through the different levels of the underworld. Like, whew, that's so cool. How they have to go through the different levels, just like Dante has to go through the different levels of hell. They have to go through the different levels of underworld and face so many different challenges, and it's so good. So good. And I need to read the sequel now. That ending, I am not okay with that ending. Like, in a good way, but not okay. After that, I read the Notorious Virtues, which, once again, thank you to Penguin Tain for sending me an arc of this book. I absolutely loved it. I didn't know what I was getting into. I just kind of, I'm one of the influencers. I just kind of get packages whenever. So, was not expecting this book. Caught me off guard, didn't know anything about it. I entered in it blind. It's a fairy tale! If you're not new here, you know how much I love fairy tales. If you are new here, I love fairy tales. I think it was so well executed. And you have 4 different POVs. You have August, Nora, Theo, and Lottie. And they're such 4 distinct personalities. And they come from different backgrounds. And they have layers to them. I mean, whew, so good, so well done. Absolutely highly recommend this book. It's out now. Go ahead. Head to your nearest bookstore, your nearest Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, I don't care where. Get a copy of this book. Especially if you love fairy tales, especially if you love grim fairy tales, because this book is basically grim fairy tales set in 1920s glitz and glam. It's amazing because it's a story about a competition. The family has to enter into a competition that tests their virtues, and then they have to go into the forest of monsters, survive it, and get the axe. The magical axe that protects their city from the creatures in the forest, from the monsters in the dark. Oh, it's so good. And you know what? The group of people fighting for equality, they call themselves the Grimms. Come on! Just read it. Read it. After that, I was able to finish the Cavern of Fear. That's Del Toro's Quest, Shadowlands Book 1. It is the book I'm reading to my son every night before bed. And I will say, I've said this once, and I'll say it again. I think Del Toro's Quest has aged so well. It's so sad that it's pretty much out of print. So I just think Scholastic needs to reprint it because it's action-packed, and you can see the growth and development in Emily Rada's storytelling and writing. I mean, the chapters are a little bit longer because you have to figure like, oh, well, kids have probably already read the first 8 books. They're maybe a little bit older now, so they can handle the longer chapters. And there's a little bit more depth to it as well. I mean, it's an action adventure, but now Leaf is king and he has to contend with all these things at 17 that he didn't think he had to deal with before. And it's a lot of challenges, and it's a lot of strain between him and Barda and him and Jasmine. There's a lot of tension there. So your group of heroes are back together, of course. Barda is his personal guard, and Jasmine is, well, she's Jasmine. She's not going to be left behind for shit. She's so stubborn, though. I love her. But she's so stubborn. And you have your heroes, and they have to go on another magical adventure to stop the Shadow Lord. But then you have assassins, and you have spies, and you have so much more that wasn't really in those first 8 books. Again, the story is developing. The characters are developing. It's growing. And I love that my son is excited, when I read these to him. Maybe he's just excited that I'm reading to him. I don't care. When I say, hey, let's read Del Toro's Quest, he wants to read the title. I mean, he's 5. He's still learning how to read. So, we go through the words, even like the big words, like cavern. And he's excited to see the map. Unfortunately, this book doesn't have a map like the first 8 did. But there is a map somewhere in the book, so I always have to have my finger or the bookmark there, so that way there's the map. This is the island they're on right now. It's just so well done, honestly. And if you can get a copy, if you can get your hands on Del Toro's Quest, if you have a kid that is kind of struggling getting into reading, try Del Toro's Quest because it has aged very well. And my kids personally, my son at least loves it. After that, I read The Darkness Within Us. This is the sequel to The Shadows Between Us, and it follows Chrysanthemum. I always forget her name. I love The Shadows Between Us, and you know what? I really did enjoy this book. You see how different the sisters are, but how similar they are at the same time. I mean, Alessandra's a killer. She killed someone. She got away with it. She entered into the whole thing, if you read the first book. She wanted to seduce the king so that she could kill the king, ended up falling in love with the king, and now she's the queen. I think her relationship with her sister is very strained. And Chrysanthemum, she acknowledges that most of it was her doing because she knew her sister would see through her facade. She made everyone think she was dull and dim-witted and slow because she was just like, yes, father. She's actually quite conniving and manipulative. She manipulated everyone thinking that she didn't know anything so that she could get what she wanted. She is brilliant. And I love her progression. I love her growth in the story. How she just wants simple things like freedom. She doesn't want constraints. She wants her own money. She wants to be able to live the life she wants without being beholden to anyone. That's it. And she loves to read. You know, her sister loved fashion and loved to make clothes. And then here you have her sister. And she just loves to read. And I think it's such a great way to tell the story in such a different way by focusing on the different sister and what she had to do, what she thought she had to do in order to survive the society that would behold her to, you know, a man. And now she has to challenge someone who's trying to steal her inheritance from, you know, her title as a duchess, a widow. It's really interesting how the story develops and how she develops as a character. So I liked it a lot. After that, I read Our Infinite Fates. So let me tell you, I was pleasantly surprised by that because I hated her previous book, Laura Stevens' previous book, Society for Souls Girls. I hated that book. I hated that book. I hated that book. I hate that book. I wish I had DNF'd that book. However, I will say I was very, very pleasantly surprised with Our Infinite Fates. I devoured this book. I could not put it down. Loved it, actually. Which is makes me very happy because I hated her previous book. Like, I was like, when this book was announced as the young adult Barnes & Noble book club pick, I was like, oh God. I was like, and I'm the host of the young adult book club, so I have to read the book. And I'm like, I don't wanna. Started reading it, and I'm like, I could not put it down. I probably would have finished it in a day if I hadn't gotten a respiratory infection and became absolutely miserable and sick. That's how good it was. I love the gender fluidity that went into writing this book. Because you have, you know, Evelyn and Arden. Arden? Or Alden. You have your two main characters, right? Where they're reincarnated every 18 years to kill each other. But every 18 years, they're not always reincarnated as male and female. Sometimes they are both reincarnated as male. Sometimes they're both reincarnated as female. You know, they are just... And sometimes they switch gender. Sometimes, you know, he's sometimes reborn as a woman and sometimes she's reborn as a man. There's a lot of gender fluidity in the book. But you don't even think about it. Their love transcends all of that. And I love that about the book. I love the queerness of it, the respect to queerness, and the gender fluidity within it as well. I think it's such really good storytelling. And you're going kind of like back in time. You're seeing every single life they had up until the beginning and why the cycle started. And when you find out why it started, I didn't see that coming. That was not even on my list of theories of why they were cursed to be reborn and fall in love and kill each other. Plot twist. That was absolutely well done. Absolutely. So, a really well done novel. I'm pleasantly surprised. After that, I read The Last Tiger. So, I know next to nothing about the Japanese occupation of Korea. American school system at work. What can I tell you? So this book allowed me to learn a little bit about that. And I was very, very happy about it. So it's, of course, it's a fantasy historical retelling. It's actually based off the characters' grandparents and their time living in Korea under the occupation. And every chapter, and I think this is really sweet, every chapter has like an epigraph or a letter, pieces of a letter from their grandparents at the top talking about their, you know, life in Korea. And I'm just like, this is amazing. And then you go into the fantasy story where they have chi and, you know, dragon chi, tiger chi, serpent chi, and how it's different and how it influences the characters. And it really makes you think. And I love a novel that makes you think. Like, when you think of any country that is living under a foreign occupation and imposing their belief system on them, they're erasing the original's culture. And you're seeing how the characters have to kind of like fight and contend with that and the position in which they're in. You know? It's just so well done and it's very thoughtful, the storytelling. And I love the romance as well between Seong and, let me see if I can pronounce her name properly, Yoonji. Yoonji? Yeah, Yoonji. So, I hope that's right. I love their characterization and how they grow apart but also find their way back together. I think it was, you know, kind of wholesome and warm, and I really enjoyed learning a little bit more about a culture that I didn't really know about, and about this time period that I also didn't really know about. After that, I read A Fire Endless. It's been a while since I read A River Enchanted, I will say that. And maybe that has something to do with why this novel, I didn't really love it. I liked it. But, oh my god. It felt long. I don't mind reading big books. I think we know that by now. I love big books. I love a good chunky book, you know? I don't like when they feel long, when I feel like the pacing is dragging. You know, the way this book starts, it's like bam, but it takes almost like half the book for them to even get back to that point, to that incident that happens in the beginning. And I get it, there's, you know, there are more character perspectives, which I did enjoy, but I mean, I just wanted the pacing to be a little quicker. I understand why it wasn't, but I wanted it to be a faster pace than it was. So, I mean, it is what it is, unfortunately. I liked it, I just didn't love it. So, it is what it is. And I did see that plot twist coming. When I read that part, you'll know, if you know, you know. I was like, I knew it. It does delve deeper. It does delve deeper into why the relationship between the two clans is so broken and why the Western clan doesn't like music and why they get tormented whenever the bard plays music by the King of the North Wind. So there is more mystery, there is more history in the story. I just wanted it to move at a faster pace. Sorry. After that, I read Onyx Storm, and unpopular opinion, it was just okay. And all my friends loved it. All my friends gave it like 4 or 5 stars, and I'm just like 3.5. If you remember, I did not love Iron Flame. In fact, I gave that book 3 stars, and I'm just like, that book I just don't like talking about it. I didn't really like it that much. But I'm one of those people, if I start a series, I have to see it to completion. I will give Yarrow's props for poking fun in this book at everything that was problematic in Iron Flame. So, she heard the fans, she listened to the fans, and I am thankful for that. I just thought it dragged. You know, there were lots of parts, especially those battle brief scenes, where I was like, okay, you're doing a lot of info dumping. I think there are better ways for you to execute this, but I understand why she did it. I understand, you know, the characters in the book are trying to create a sense of normalcy within a time of war. You know, they are in war college. However, I think it could have been executed in a different way that didn't ruin the pacing of the story, you know? I think I could have actually just done without all the battle brief scenes and all the scenes. It's like, yeah, we're back in college, like nothing happened. I'm like, no, things are happening. Things are happening. I just think it could have been executed better because a lot of those scenes felt like, to me, like info dumping, and they were slow and boring. I ended up having to audiobook this book because I was just like, oh my god. struggling. I will say that last quarter of the book really picked up the pace and was quite addictive. I did like how they traveled to the other, to the lands outside the continent, and how we got to see the Irids and the other dragons. I did like that. I just kind of wanted more on the other island. It's like we barely touched, like, oh, we're going to go from island to island to island to island. So in those aspects, the pacing was too quick because we didn't really get to know anything about these other, cultures and communities and these other gods, It was just hop, hop, hop. And I'm like, okay, again, now you're picking up the pace, but now where I want you to pick up the pace, where you are picking the pace, I don't want you to pick up the pace because I want you to delve deeper into what's happening here in these places. I think that would have made the story a little bit richer for me because I'm one of those people who likes massive epic fantasies and whole lots of world building. I'm one of those people. So I just think the story was slow in the wrong parts. And I just wanted a little bit more action. Although I am glad that, Violet and Xaden are no longer whiny, stop keeping secrets from me. Let me in on everything kind of situation. So, yeah. After that, I read my book club pick, which was The Sins on Their Bones. Such a good novel. I love this book. I don't care. Read this book. Just read this book. That's all I have to say on the matter. Read the book. It has found family. It's so strong in its queer representation. I mean, it just fits into the story effortlessly. You don't even think about it. Along with the Yiddish, I'm someone who I know bare minimum of Judica. My family's Catholic. I don't normally care for religion in general. That's why I've chosen to be Wiccan. So I know the bare minimum of Judica, right? So the fact that Jewish folklore and mythology is kind of like one of the core centerpieces of the world building here, it didn't take it out of the book for me. It was something different. It was something unique. I think it added another layer to the world building and the storytelling. See, I like world building. But it did it in such a perfect, balanced way that it made it submersive. She throws in a lot of Yiddish in the book. And I wasn't sitting here struggling to be like, oh, what does this word mean? It seemed, from the context itself, it was like a colloquialism that she was using. I was able to figure out what the word was, or at least the context of the word, from the surrounding context. And it didn't take me out of the book. I would just read it and just keep moving. I didn't even second guess it. I think Summer Chen's writing style and her character development is so well done because it deals like things like toxic relationships and surviving and recovering from emotional and mental abuse, and I think, just the character development. Dimitri's whole journey of healing is breathtaking. It's breathtaking and it's wonderful. And I think it's such an empowering, wonderful story to read. And I cannot wait to see the second book and read the second book. And I'm like, okay, so good. And finally, last book of the month was Sailor Moon Eternal Volume 4. I've said it once and I've said it again. I love Sailor Moon. I think Sailor Moon is awesome. I think Sailor Moon is amazing. It is the best thing ever. I think it's so well done, so well executed. I think it gives me a deeper respect for the new Sailor Moon Crystal, Sailor Moon Eternal, Sailor Moon Cosmos. I absolutely love it. And especially the info in the back. I'm like, these are such fun facts that I would never have even thought of. I love the artwork. I love that there are snippets in this one that have color in them because it really does give you a sense of who the characters are. And I mean, I think color is such an integral part in just determining aspects of characters. It's why I love Lore Olympus so much, because I think colors have different meanings, So seeing the color in the books and in the manga, I think it gives this sort of deeper meaning to these characterizations and their dynamics with one another. And I just love seeing Usagi as more than just a whiny brat like she was in the 90s. Don't get me wrong, I love the 90s. I own the first 2 seasons on DVD. You can't, and I own the original Dick versions, not the new ones that have been redubbed. I have the ones with Sailor Says that have a bunch of things cut out. So I love the 90s Sailor Moon, you know? But let's face it, Sailor Moon was super, super whiny. In the manga and in Sailor Moon Crystal, she's not so whiny. She has a deeper sense of maturity, and that's what I love that the manga represents. So, those are my 14 books that I read this March. Please let me know in the comments how many you read, what you did read, if you agree with some of my assessments or not. If there is a particular book that you'd like to see like a full review of, let me know and I'll try to prioritize that one. And on that note, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with all your book-loving friends. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, happy reading.